Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bobby Waldron and welcome to another tutorial video. Now in this tutorial video we are going to be working on our Tempest just here. As you can see, it's at its final sort of stages. We've done like virtually all the weathering. This is basically ready for a matte coat, but there is a technique I like to use, which is, I like to call it the a final post shade, right? And the whole point of a final post shade is just to target certain areas, just to kind of finalize the weathering, and it is quite a sort of an easy technique. I know post shading for you basic airbrushers might sound a little bit hard, and post shading is kind of hard when you first start off, but because it's a final post shade, I find it's not as hard as you think it is. Now with this, what you basically want to do, I mean I've already made the mixture up, but it's all about getting your paint mega thin, right? We're talking, getting your thinners out. I like to use some black 057 Vallejo Model Air, and what you do is you thin down the paint so there's only 10% paint in there. I mean, it literally is a case of you pour a nice bit of thinners in and you put about 2 drops of this black paint in there, mega thin. And what this does is it makes the paint mega transparent, right? So it is quite hard to actually make a mistake, because I can spray on this, and because it's only 10% paint, you're really sort of hardly gonna notice the paint even going down, right? So you would have to build up several layers to really sort of have it really pop out and be a mistake, right? So the whole point of this is, when it comes to models that we have just here, the decals is probably the big reason why I do this, because with decals are put on after the painting stage. Now in the painting stage we do all this fancy work with pre-shading, we do all our bleaching, we do our post shading, and we see all this kind of nice paint work that's on there. But then the decals go on after, and the decals don't get any of that attention, and that's why I like to do this. And it's a nice simple task of, for instance, we have, if I can just show you, without trying to, I'm at the last stage here and I've got all sorts of little antennas sticking off, but we have our decals just here, and they haven't had that kind of weathering. Now we can do a nice simple task of, because our paint's nice and thin, we can actually just spray on a little bit, all sort of squiggly, from a bit of a distance, so it's not really hard on the spraying, and it just puts down a very thin layer of this black. And as you can see, I just sprayed that on there, and it is hard to see on camera. It doesn't really go down that much, but just a bit of a squiggle here and there around our decals, it just darkens them up a little bit, kind of just weathers them up a bit, doesn't make them sort of pop out so much, because the decals, we have all these reds, blues and yellows, and they do kind of like really sort of pop out a bit, maybe too much, and the rest of the model's all weathered and dirty, and it just kind of gives them a bit of a darkening up. And the same, we have a nice little round up here, we can just squiggle in and around the decal. We haven't got to worry about it sort of going on the rest of the model, because this is just a nice light bit of weathering, just slightly sort of darkening it up. If you wanted to get fancy as well, you could, if we just dry this off. You're not really going to notice it, because the paint is so thin, which is the beauty about this. We haven't got to worry about really making mistakes. We could come in and do our good old post shading if you wanted to get a bit fancy, you wanted to get in a little bit close, right? And we can follow these panel lines on the decals, right, just to give them that same bit of a look of the rest of the model, right? But the paint's really thin, so don't worry too much about it. There are other videos I've done on really getting in close and doing pre-shading, so go check them out. This is just a nice little technique in which it's just talking about getting your paint mega thin, right? It just slightly just darkens up those areas on decals just so they don't pop too much and they're not so colourful and not so unweathered. We even have things like ailerons, slats, flaps and all that kind of stuff, moving parts. I do like to, you know, maybe follow these panel lines and just maybe just a bit more of a little bit of a darkening up in those areas, just to show that, you know, they're moving parts, they get a bit more sort of grimy and a bit more weathered. You know, simple things like just maybe looking at your model, we have these yellow lines that's going across there. I'm kind of thinking they're a bit too bright. I mean, I can just just blast along the leading edge with this really thin down black paint, right? And it's probably not noticeable on camera, but with the naked eye, it hasn't made a massive difference. It's just made that light darkening of it and not sort of making it popping in your face too much. We could do with the same with the propeller as well if we sort of put it on, just to maybe show the direction of flow. We could just have a bit of a blast on the front. Right, maybe make the nose look a little bit dirtier as it's flowing forwards. You can even tackle areas like the MGs where it's got that soot going down. We can do a bit more streak in there if you wanted to. I've already done it in previous stages and I don't feel like it needs any more, but you could. Same with our exhaust tails as well. Do some more black streaking along there. It's just these final little touches just to kind of, you know, sort of bring it together, sort of feather it in, get rid of the decal problem that most models have because they don't get that kind of attention. And that's it really. You don't really have to be an expert or very competent in airbrushing unless you did want to get in real close and do some proper nice what was it, some pre-shading, getting right in there, but it's not really needed. The key is 10% paint and it's just going to be a very light misting. You can bring your air pressure down to about 15 psi because it is really thin down, and apart from that it's just a nice little touch just to finishing off the weathering, ready to finish this model with a nice matte coat and ready to pretty much go on your display cabinet. So hopefully you've enjoyed that nice tutorial there, but as always, until next time, my name's Bob Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I'll catch you later.